I am so blessed to be here. And I got so blessed listening to Jerry, I nearly fell asleep back there, but I did ask him to share. I actually meant to share it some week when I'm not here, but I did want him to share that sort of stuff because, I don't want to say I worry about Jerry. I just want to say he's my friend, and he does a lot. And a lot of times we just don't know all the stuff that he does. So that's why I was applauding that someone said they could come early and help. Because I'm always asking Jerry, is there someone that could help you with this? Someone that could help you with that? It's okay. I don't know. So anyway, good news. Let's open your Bibles to the Gospel according to John chapter 1, and let's just jump right back into the deepest set of words that have ever been written. It's not just the most profound and lofty text in the Bible. I think it's the most wonderfully incomprehensible of anything that's ever been said in terms of theology or philosophy or all those things that, wow, it boggles my mind. This is the ultimate mind boggler in a wonderful way, in a good way. And we looked at it last time that I was here, and actually we talked about it the whole time. Couldn't get past it. And like I said then, I'll repeat again. We for having spent a whole week just looking at that one verse, we don't understand it any more than you can understand love by getting a little taste of it, by experiencing it. It's just height, depth, length, and breadth beyond measure. But that's where we started, and let's read it once again. It says, in the beginning was the Logos. And I'll use the Greek word, we say the word, but I think it helps to at least here say it as it's written. In the beginning was the Logos, and that Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. Now, most of you know that it later on says, and the Logos became flesh and dwelt among us. You know, if you didn't know that, you'd probably say, what in the world is this John guy talking about? But that's how he starts. This logos, this logo, this logic, this language, this expression is the expression, the language of love. Because God is love. And here is love finally and fully expressed. This is what we mean by love, if we mean anything real. Oh, we say love for a zillion and one things, from inanimate objects to various passions of life, and we may like them greatly, we may enjoy them immensely, but if we're talking love, we're talking something intensely personal. God is love. God is a person. This Logos is a person. God is a person on the highest plane. Not just a person, he's a persons. He's a community in the very essence of who he is. This Logos was with God. This Logos was God. Again, too deep. I'm not going to try and talk anymore about it. Just understand that God is personal love on the highest plane. In terms of community, in terms of more than one, there has to be more than one for any real meaningful love. That's God, and it's in personal love that we experience him, that we grow in him, that we do anything worthy of really calling love. Oh, talk love, sing love, all this love. But when it comes right down to it, God himself says, if you talk of loving me and you don't love your neighbor, you're talking nonsense. How can you separate out the love of God from the love of man? You're making a mistake when you even begin to do that. And so, personal love, that's God. That's how God is experienced. And I'm experiencing that right now in my life in the most wonderful ways. Love is happening to me beyond measure. And if I get a little weepy up here, as Jim says, if I start going all Bruce on you, it's only because I'm sentimental. It's not because I'm afraid. It's not because, far from it. Perfect love casts out all fear. I'm excited. I'm blessed, incredibly blessed. But whether it's a little sentimental song or a sentimental movie, it doesn't take much of a hook, and I'm there. I'm right there. So I'll try to not go all Bruce on you in the course of what I'm sharing. But this is happening to me beyond measure, this love experience. And it's not because I'm in church. Because quite frankly, I'm pretty fed up with church. Can you imagine that? A pastor, after 40 years being a pastor, wondering, what was that all about? Questioning the very virtue or worth of coming together. I'm not talking about the church. I'm not talking about the body of Christ. I'm not talking about the real thing. I'm talking about the thing that we do. And in different countries, different places, we have different traditions. We do this thing, we call it church, we organize it, or maybe not. It may be a high church, it may be a low church. But I have found that church can be one of the hardest places to make any real, loving, personal connections. Because there are so many ancillary things that surround it. And if any of you have ever found that to be true, I think that's true, but it's not. God's not the problem, the Bible's not the problem. Certainly love isn't the problem. It's just that we do a lot of things in church that really don't have a lot to do with personal friendship and love. And for me, it's happening so immensely because I've developed friendships here in this community over so many years. And some a little bit more recent, all a little more tried and tested in recent months. But friendships that I believe are real. It can be seen by me to be real. It affects me as such. And in those friendships, those personal, loving relationships, the kind that I hope you guys have lots of places, in your family, in your neighborhood, in your marriages, hopefully here in this community. I hope you have it in lots of places. But man, I've got so many loving, wonderful friends right now that it just blesses me to be alive. And it blesses me to look at the Word of God along with you. Friends old and friends new. You know, the now almost joke of my 4-year plan and all the things that I didn't plan on. But the fact is, what I wanted to do this year is develop friendships. And that's been happening in a huge way. And like I've shared with you, what we do here, to me, this is not journeying through the Bible together. That could be an academic course. We're journeying through life together. And we use the Bible as our guide, and we can share with one another how the Bible helps us to get through the things that we face in life. And right now, as many of you already know, this isn't an announcement, you already know that I'm going through the dark valley of the shadow of death. I'm going through that place called cancer. Many of you have been through it before. Many of you are still going through it. Some of you will go through it later. It's nothing new. We've been through the valley of cancer so many times in this congregation. And some have gone on to glory in heaven, and some have stayed to serve and love a little longer here on this earth. But we've been through this so many times. I've always been someone to be supportive and helping. In some cases, I was blessed to be able to actually be heading up the hospice team, living in the house and staying with. And some of my most treasured times in life was being alongside some of my friends in that journey that ended up in heaven for them. And I'm waiting to catch up with them in that regard. But for me right now, I didn't volunteer for this, but I get to take the lead. It's me that's got the cancer. Isn't that cool? God gave me cancer. No, God did not give me cancer. I just got it. I got it because my dad had it. I got it because my brother had it. And bear in mind, if you don't already know, if any of you just got here and you're worried about me, please don't worry, because it's prostate cancer. It's not far from the worst kind of cancer. It's prostate cancer. It runs in my family. I didn't ask for it. I don't think God gave it to me, but I got it. And we're going through that together. And it's going to affect us all together, since I told you about it a few weeks ago, since I wasn't here last week. I told you last time I was here a couple of weeks ago that I was having another birthday, and then I was going to have a happy birthday biopsy, and was that fun? But I won't go there. I wish the doctor wouldn't have, but that's part of the whole journey, you know. But it was my MRI that told me I had cancer, and I took a little bit of assurance from some folks that, the MRI is not diagnostic. It's, you got to get the biopsy. And I Science is science, I agree, okay, I'll get the biopsy. I always felt I had cancer, and by golly, I'm right again. I got the biopsy results on Friday, and I wish I weren't right sometimes, but I expected to get the diagnosis of cancer. It wasn't a good diagnosis of cancer, though. And it's all relative. I may say some scary things, but let me say, first of all, please don't be scared. I'm going to get through this. It's not that bad. But in terms of prostate cancer, since many of you wanted to know, and a couple of you already snagged me earlier today, and I've told this story, I'm going to tell it one more time. And I've got an aggressive form of prostate cancer. In terms of Gleason numbers, they're way up there, and I wish they weren't, but they are. Which simply means that this is not a watch and wait and see and no. I'm still young, really young for prostate cancer. So there's no question, it's got to come out. Radiation or surgery, you got to get that baby out of there. And so I think it's probably going to be the surgery. I'm in that realm right now. There are a couple of tests, CAT scan, bone scan, certain things. Let's make sure it didn't go anywhere else. I doubt that anything's going to show up there, but I just doubt it, just based on what prostate cancer is. I think those things will come back clear. I think I'll have surgery. I think I'll be out for a few, who knows how long with surgery. I think I'll be back. One of the cool things about prostate cancer is that when you get rid of the source, the prostate itself, they don't just say remission, they say you're cured. And then, of course, you do blood tests all the time. But that's a cool thing. If you got to have cancer, isn't it nice to have one that can be cured, where they can say to you pretty quickly, hey, you're cured. So here's my goal. That's kind of where we're going. My goal is to, by Thanksgiving, be able to, there I go, speaking in tongues again. There's something about Thanksgiving, and even Christmas is extra sentimental to me this year. But my wife and I watched a sentimental, old, sappy Christmas movie yesterday. And you process, even though you know the facts, you deal with it as a couple, married 41, 42 years, whatever. It affects the body, not just this body, it affects the body, it affects the family. So sentimental, Christmas sounds extra sentimental this year. Thanksgiving, I'm always thankful, but I expect by Thanksgiving or Christmas to say, hey, I'm cured. I'm cured, hope never have to see those numbers go up again. We'll watch it for the rest of my life. But I hope to live a long life, and that's the deal with that. But I want to learn from it, and if I learn anything, I want to share with you about that. And when we go through the dark valleys, yea, though I go through the valley of the shadow of death, I think that's an apt picture for cancer. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. My urologist on Friday, he's talking about Kubler-Ross and death and dying and different things that he's recommending. And my wife and son kind of misunderstood. Why is he going there, Well, he's going there because because it's prostate cancer, some people just say, oh, you know what, if I just take the right herbs, if I just do the right whatever, it'll go away. But not if it's like mine, it won't. And so mine's serious. He just wanted to make sure we took it serious. And by definition, cancer is always a life-threatening disease. So wisely, this man, not knowing us, talked about that prepare yourself for all of those stages, the classic stages of anger and denial and, all that sort of stuff. And really, it's a valley you go through, like the valley of the shadow of death. You don't die there necessarily, but you feel the shadow coming over you. And the comfort that you guys know, as I start to quote it, Psalm 23, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you're with me. That's the deal. You are with me. And he is with me right now in spades. He is with me. Here goes the sentimental part again. Because this is the most sentimental part to me. How do I know he's with me? Because I got faith. I'm spiritual. I'm a church guy. I just close my eyes and say, God, I know you're there. No, I'm like you. I know he's there because you're here. I know he's there because my wife and my sons and my friends, and because people are there. And that's not, oh, you poor weak person. That's the way we were made, and that's what the Gospel of John expresses, and that's what we need to learn. And when I had folks last week, when I couldn't be here to lead music, and I had Carl and Greg and Sonia and Barry and Jim fails me. He always fails. Now, Jim couldn't be here. Jim wanted to be here, but he couldn't be here. But these other folks that they just stepped up, and Jerry kicking in, trying to do worship, and they practiced midweek. We're going to practice, and they picked all these songs. And I practiced with them the Sunday night before, and I said, you know what, folks? Anybody who comes here church shopping is going to never come back again. Because you're not entertaining, you're not even necessarily in tune, you may sound bad, but you know what? That's the most beautiful worship I ever heard. Because that's worship, that's friendship, that's people supporting people. And though I wasn't here last week, I'm sure that you who were here weren't going like, oh man, them? You were probably singing and worshiping all the better because you realized what was happening. It was supporting and sentimental. Why does Ronnie always make me cry? I look over at him and I want to cry. Ronnie is one of my oldest friends. Don't get much older than Ronnie. We've known each other a long time. I don't know what he said last week. I don't care what he said. He's Ronnie. He's my friend. And he was there because he's my friend. And that blesses me. And all of you folks showing up, and the fact that you were there, many of you last week, and many of you, I can see you here today, unless you're over in the coffee shop, and you guys, I never see you. But come see me later. I like to see people. And because the weeks I'll have to miss with Sergio or whatever, you guys will still show up and support and be around. And when this whole thing is passed, I'm not going to come back to an empty church because everyone figured out like, man, that one looked like it's going, let's go. You just don't do that when you got friends, when you got family. I know that's the case. We have here now, if I were shopping churches, which I don't know that I would ever do again, I just want to love people wherever I'm at. And whatever church I go to, I just want to love people. Whatever neighborhood I live in, I just want to love people and learn from people and share with them what I've got. But if I were shopping churches at this point, I'd say, hey, stop here, unless you want to be a jerk, and then move on. But if your interest is not what's in it for me, but what can I share? We have come to the place where we have a wonderful community of people, and I feel like we've got a lot of people who are not only friends with one another, but friends for me. So I am blessed right now, and not just this little congregation, the New Beginnings Church next door, the love, the prayers that I've seen expressed since they knew that I was going through a cancer issue. And then the Central Valley Church, there's a real opportunity to be weird. I hope you don't take it. We've always got this, who are they? What are they? What do they believe? I think they're friends. They've been friends toward me. Are you supposed to go to church there? Go to church. They may believe, I'm pretty sure they believe a few things that I don't believe. But they're not asking me to believe it. I'd say quite honestly, I don't believe that. Why? Because I think it's dumb or whatever. Friends, let's just talk about it. No, I don't agree with that. I agree with that. I don't agree with that. We all agree about Jesus. We agree about, in this case, the Trinity and some of those things that are the essentials. We agree about love, all that sort of stuff. But that group has been with me in a huge way, and they've been, so when you see them, the pastor's sick, and these folks are starting to come on in here, they're starting to work their way into our church. Chris Simmons sent me, I don't know who else she sent it to, but she sent they're coming for this work day in a week or so, and they're going to do a midweek Bible study. It's their midweek Bible study. Again, you may go there and say, I don't like what they teach. Well, then quit going. Don't try and fix them. Let me fix them. No, I'm not going to. Just love them and leave them alone and have your own Bible studies somewhere else. And, again, we can get together and study the Bible, but they're just going to come here, not because they don't have a building. They got a building. They're coming here because they want to help. And they want to offer just their friendship. And so, again, and I hope that's not just for a few weeks or months. I hope that, like I've shared with you this whole year, I hope this whole campus gets filled with Christians from I don't care how many little different groups that don't quite agree, just Christians filling up this place and being a true light to this neighborhood around us. That's my prayer and hope. So that's starting to happen, and they're going to be here for this work day that Jerry talked about. And then apart from that work day, Chris Simmons sent this thing out of volunteers they had the other day, signed up to volunteer anyway, anytime. Here's my gifts, here's my skills, here's my email. 34 people. Whoa! They're the way we used to be. We sign up for anything. We said, but again, like we used to be, y'all. So I expect you sign up, but you don't show up. You sign up and you're excited, and then it's like, you quit. Because I'm not saying these are super people. I'm just saying they're people, loving people. They're friends. That's why I feel like going through a valley of shadow of death or not, I'm going through a good place right now. Because thou art with me. These friends are with me. Yeah, I've got cancer. I wish the biopsy would have said, and you know what? Miracle, the MRI is all wrong. You don't have cancer. I was hoping. I didn't think it, but I kind of thought, wouldn't that be cool? I'll come in and say, guess what? The biopsy says I don't have cancer. And all my Christian friends will say, miracle. And my atheist friends will say, yeah, the MRIs aren't that reliable in giving the I don't care. They care for me on both sides. They're my friends. They're all happy. But I was hoping to be able to say, guess what? But I don't get to say that. Yes, I have cancer, aggressive prostate cancer. I have friends. Loving, I won't say aggressive. I'll say active and caring friends. That's always the place to focus. Please, I'm not trying to make this about me. I spend too much time on me. I'm just saying these are the things that I'm learning, and maybe you can learn it sometime in your life when you need to turn your attention away from the problem and look to the blessing, to the silver linings. And it's all here. You're wondering, didn't we start in John 1 a little bit ago? What's this guy talking? In the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was with God, and that Logos was God. He was in the beginning with God. Genesis is beginning. He was in Genesis with God. This one we know as Jesus, he was there in Genesis. The one we know as God. God is love. Love's logo, love's logic, love's language was there in Genesis. You read Genesis and you hear him. Let us make man in our own image, according to our likeness. You hear the word, let there be light, let there be the expanse, the firmament, let there be the solid ground, let there be, let there be. You hear the word saying over and over, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good. And you hear him say, finally, when he made man all alone, it's not good. It's not good for man to be alone. You see, even God, the perfect creator, didn't create a perfect person when he created the one. Perfection has to come from more than that. It has to come from love, and certainly God loves us. But God, in all of his infinite love for that one man, knows that man needs more than even the infinite love of God. Man needs the love of man. Man requires companionship. And I'm not talking about marriage here. Marriage is part of it, and that was the first counterpart. But man, all of us, humans need companions, counterparts, community. You know, even the Spirit of God, God is love, spiritual love, that's not enough. We may say it's enough, but it's not the way we were made. We need the perfect love of God flowing in human language. We need it in human logic. We need it in flesh, in human flesh. We were made to have human flesh convey to us the fact that God loves us. And that's our opportunity. And that's why you can't separate out the love of your neighbor. You can't separate out the love of man. To experience the love of God, you can't just go off in a cave and just experience the spiritual love. You may experience something, but that's not what we were designed for. We need love flowing through human flesh. And granted, that causes a problem because human flesh, the flesh. Love one another. Flesh and all. Not the sin, but the sinner. Certainly God did, because you're never going to find anybody perfect. Love your neighbor. And if you can't do that, pick a better neighborhood. Love your neighbor. And then pick a better neighborhood maybe. But the fact is, we need the love of God flowing through human flesh, touching our senses, the touch, the warmth, the hug, the hold, the speaking, not the lecturing. This is not about information. This is not about telling people what they ought to think or what they ought to do, or I'm here for you when maybe you won't be. Just the words of a friend, who it's not even so much what you said, it's the fact that I know you're a friend and you're there. And speaking the way our God speaks to us, not like the thunder, not like the fire, not like the earthquake, but just a still small voice that says, Elijah, you almost wish you could die. You're going to go on. And it's a still small voice. Still and small. We need to know the love of God through something as simple as any one of you can do. Through the touching of our senses, through the attending to our senses, in the most subtle ways. To just know that, you know what? I'm not alone. Look, I'm not alone. Let's sing a song. I hear, I'm not alone. I feel the warmth. I smell the smell. I'm not alone. Better put on the deodorant. You know what? I'd rather smell BO, if it's human BO, than to think that I am somehow all alone in my purity, in some cut-off place. We've gotten far from that primal sense of humanity, like a baby would know. Knows the smell of the mother, knows the sense of belonging. That's the way we were designed. And really, in the story of Job's friends, they left off their greatest gifting and calling when they quit just sitting there like they did for 7 days, and then they started talking and giving speeches, and pretty soon they're fighting over the Bible. And who's right? And there's something about the righteous mind. There's a book out. I haven't bought it yet, but I like the title. And I read a synopsis of it. It's a psychological study by a guy that spent his life. And there's something that our brains do when we think we're right. The book, I believe, is called The Righteous Mind. But it's just psychological studies of just the way we're wired. That once I believe this is a righteous cause, this is a moral cause, this is a cause that I can't bend on, suddenly we start turning into something that we weren't a while before. Because now this is them's fighting words. And as soon as Job's friends started giving their theological lectures, it turned into fighting words. And sadly, that's the kind of thing that just seems to happen. God has loved us always. God lets us know he loves us because he talks to us through human flesh. He did so perfectly in the person of Jesus. That's why we study everything about him. That's why we long to be more like him. But it didn't end there. The incarnation didn't end there. He's in us, and he would desire to speak and act through us, not in our lectures, not in our arguments, but just in our being and loving. And love is just that. Again, I tend toward philosophy. I tend toward things that may put you to sleep. I'm sorry. When we move on in the Gospel of John, this deep, deep philosophical text becomes so personal. It's one personal story after another, because that's really where it fleshes out. That's where it really is reality. But just know this, the love of God is intensely personal. The love of God is intensely practical. Love and joy and peace and patience and kindness, goodness. And our warfare has never been with flesh and blood. Our warfare is against all those things and all those forces and all that stuff in the air that would keep us from acting in love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and all of those other attributes of intense personal love. The kind that Jesus lived. You know the story. I can go on like this a little bit. Don't worry, I'm going to finish. And I plan to be here next week, so don't worry about it. You won't get rid of me that soon. But You know the story of Jesus. You already love him. I think that's why most of you are here. You've read this story. You love him. Isn't he lovable? I don't know hardly anybody who has trouble with what Jesus said or did. They just have trouble with what Christians say and do. Jesus is beautiful. And that logos, let's go back to it, verse 2. That logos, that language of love was there in Genesis with God. And all things came into being by love, by this logos. And apart from this logos, apart from this love, nothing came into being that has come into being. Quite simply, because it's too complex to be anything else, simply this, I would say the source of all good is God. Is it good? If it's truly good, it's God. Yes, some things aren't what they seem to be, but just when you get right down to it, if it's really good, it's really God. And when I hear people say, hey, I don't believe in God. My first question is, do you believe in good? Yeah, I believe in good. Oh, I think you believe in God. No, I don't. Okay. I'm not going to quibble about words and spellings, and I spell it with 2 O's, you spell it with 1 O. I just think you love something higher than you know yet. And if you're not ready to hear that, I'm not going to tell you that, because now you're ticked off at me. We're already in an argument about words. But from my own heart, if you love what is good, you love what is God. We're blessed coming to a place like this because we get to know him more personally. It's not just thank goodness, it's thank God in the person of Jesus. Thank this one who went to that woman at the well. Thank this one who stared down these people who were ready to throw the first stone. We've seen him. As James says, every good gift and all good giving, it comes down from the Father of lights, in whom there's no shifting, no variation, no dark side. It all comes down, every good gift, all good giving from the Father. And then Jesus here in John's Gospel says, have I been with you long enough now? If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. So I see Jesus, not because I'm a religious guy. I look out here and I see Jesus. I see friends. I see the love of God at work in my life. I see Jesus. I read this story. Oh, I perfectly, as perfect as my eyes can take it in, I see the picture. I see Jesus. I see the Father, and I feel peace. Doesn't matter what valley I'm going through. Doesn't matter what other things keep distracting me. Because, man, there's always distractions. I come back to peace. I come back to peace. I come back to love. I come back to kindness. I come back to this story. And so it says that in Genesis, he was there. This love was in Genesis, verse 2, with God. All things came into being by him, all that is good. Apart from him, nothing came into being that has come into being. I don't want to talk about evil, but just in case it popped into your head, what about evil? What about evil? Evil is not good. There, I'm done. All good came from God. There are a lot of things that are not. There are a lot of things that I may not have a good answer for yet, but God's got a good answer. But I'll just simply say, he's not the author of darkness or evil or all that other stuff. He is the God, the Father of lights. And he's the one I see in the person of Jesus. And verse 4 says, in him, in that love, in that personal love we know as Jesus, in that personal love was life. In love is life. We talk about life, and that word can mean a lot of things, but when the Bible talks about it, in love is life, in him is life. We're not talking about something abstract or theoretical. We're not talking even about something biological. Like, ooh, it reproduces. Ooh, it squirms when I touch it. The definitions of life. We're not talking about that. We're talking about real life. Are you really alive? Life is love. It's personal love. It's all personal love. When it's true personal love flowing down from the Father, it's not perfect. In Jesus, it's perfect. We're working on it. But life is all about personal love, not religious rankings, not religious rules. Not you got to go because you got to go. Like it or not, don't worry, you'll get out. No, it's about personal love, personal bonds, personal commitment, personal connections. That's life. It's expressed in Jesus. He's the language of it. I don't think anyone will debate that. But if you talk about life in that way, like, what is life? What is the meaning of life? I was just thinking, what is the meaning of life? Don't go to Darwin. Because now we're just talking about something biological. Life, look at Jesus. Life is not competitive. Life is cooperative. Life is communal. Life is sharing. Life is not survival of the fittest. That's just what germs and things will do. Life isn't survival of the fittest. It's the loving service of the greatest. And Jesus is the greatest. And he's the greatest of all because he serves all. Real life is never weak and fearful. I better do it to my brother before my brother does one to me. Kill or be killed. That's life. No, it's not. Life isn't weak and fearful. Life is strong and courageous. Strong enough to say, you know what, even if you kill me, if I love you, I'm coming back again. When I come back, I'm going to tell you I still love you. It's strong enough to say, though you take my life from me, you can't take my life. I lay it down. I lay it down in love. I take it up again. We know that Jesus did that, but he gives us the power to do that, to make decisions in love without being afraid. To say, you know what, you can't take my joy, you can't take my hope, you can't take my happiness ultimately, because it's all centered in real life. Real life. So very different from this biological stuff. I mean, I love biology. I've got a degree in biology. I love science. Little squirmy things are cool. I'm amazed by it. I believe that God is the author of all of that in a much lesser sense. But if we're talking about people, we're talking about life. We're talking about love. Is there life on other planets? I don't know. Be interesting to find out. I don't know how much money we should spend on it, but that's a political thing. But here's the question for you. Not is there life on other planets? Bro, is there life in you? Is there life in your marriage? Is there life in your church? Is there life in your neighborhood? And those are all questions not about survival of the fittest. They're all talking about the service of the greatest. And they're talking about love. You know that. We've all seen enough of Jesus. We know that's real life. And if you find it, may it flourish. Feed it, nurture it, let it reproduce. That's life. Is there life on the moon right now? This is a wonderful question. Right this second. You know what? In fact, probably, maybe most likely, there is life on the moon right this minute, because there was a spaceship that they sent off, private firm from Israel back in April, and it went up there. It didn't land like they planned. It crashed, but it contained a bunch of these little microscopic tardigrades, they're called, or water bears. They're kind of cute under the microscope. These little creatures that they have found to be able to survive at the openings of volcanoes, and they can survive. They can be frozen. Doesn't matter how long you keep them in your freezer. They can be frozen for decades. No water. They live. They can endure temperatures and pressures that would burst other living cells. But these little cute little water bears, they live. And there they were in that ship, and it crashed, and the little can or whatever that had them in popped out, and they know that it landed in the Sea of Serenity there on the moon. And based upon what these little critters are, they may well be alive on the moon right now. And they may be there decades from now. Doesn't that give you hope? Makes me feel bad for the moon. I don't know if I've ever felt bad for the moon before, but it's like, you got to take our junk and leave it on the moon? You know, there's like 100 bags of poop that are still there from the 60s, because what are you going to do? You pack it in, pack it out? No. There's all kinds of human DNA on the moon right now because they had to leave all that kind of stuff behind. So, isn't it exciting? There's life on the moon right now. No, there's just... Surviving isn't living. Cancer survives. That's why it kills. It survives at all cost. Doesn't care about its host. Welcome to cancer. That's life. No, it's not. I disagree. In him was life. In this personal love is life. You want to live? There it is. In personal love is life. Cancer stinks. There's a lot of words that I won't say from the pulpit here that I could call cancer. And those would actually all be better things, because they just rot. No, cancer lives and it kills. Cancer is, let me just put it this way, hopefully I don't offend any of you too much. Cancer stinks. Cancer is a pretty pretty poopy thing. I use that word carefully because I used it a little bit ago about astronauts, so I felt I was free to venture out there a little bit. But cancer is a pretty poopy thing, but like all poopy things, it is good for one thing. It makes for good manure. And as something involving my life right now, hopefully it wouldn't hit you, but most of you it already has. I know you. I've been involved in the funerals and been involved in the families. But you know what? It does make good manure. And when I look at all the fruit being born in my life and in the lives of other people around me because of my own little taste of this, I shouldn't say taste, my own little experience of this crud, hey, God is good. Didn't give me the cancer. I got it. But God is good. And most likely, it may well be that I'm going to take some of it with me to the grave. With prostate cancer, that's what they say, that young men die from it, old men die with it. I was telling that to my next door neighbor who's in his 80s, and he took comfort in that. Oh, you mean I'm going to take my cancer with me to the grave if I've got it? I said, yeah. He said, good, because that's where it belongs. I may take some cancer with me to the grave, but that's where it stays. It's over. I take it to the grave, and it's gone. Cancer kills, and then it dies. But love, it heals, and it lives. And that's where you put your focus. How blessed we are to walk together through this little time. Be a short time. Like I said, I'm hoping to get this behind me by Thanksgiving. But, there'll be some weeks when I won't be here. There'll be some times when Carl and company get to help. And we may even put Ronnie up here again. Jim, Jerry, who knows? Whoever is up here, they may be terrible public speakers. I'll guarantee you they'll be scared spitless. Unlike me, who stands up here and spits constantly. Why, no one ever sits up in here. They will be scared. They will have dry mouth. But I'll tell you, they're all my friends. And they're all good people. And, whatever. The fact is that we are going through this stuff and whatever you may face. Because, again, this isn't my story. It's his story. But we all face stuff. And I hope that I can be there, with you in the years ahead as we go through other stuff together. But cruddy things happen. Poop happens. Stuff, it happens. And when it does, you know what we tend to say? I do. You say, you try and be philosophical. That's life. Let me just correct that. That's not life. In him is life. That's not life. That's manure. Just call it. Manure happens. That's not life. But it can often be good fertilizer for the things that are life. Love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness, gentleness, self-control. Man, in him is life. May your life flourish. May your life, in whatever circumstance you find yourself, may you know he's with you. And may you show other people he's with you. Why? Because I'm here. Not because I'm smart, not because I got the answers. I'm here. Isn't that awesome?